Howdy folks, welcome back to War Thunder Ground Forces with the mighty Jingles. This is the first video I've put up since reaching 300,000 subscribers, and as mentioned in yesterday's Mingles with Jingles, definitely going to be doing something. Lots and lots of giveaways coming up over the course of the next week or so. Nothing in today's video, sorry, I just thought I'd confirm it for those of you who were looking forward to some sort of reply to yesterday's Mingles with Jingles. What the hell is going on with that tiger? Yes, anyway, so 300,000 subscribers. Woohoo! Thank you, every last one of you. This, however, is the fantastically well named Big Man Nipples, and is in a realistic battle in War Thunder Ground Forces with the captured KV-1. This is a new premium tank that was introduced in War Thunder patch 1.43, and it's a pretty good tank. It's basically the ferociously well-armoured KV-1, but with a German 75mm KWK-40 L43 anti-tank gun instead of that not terribly good Russian 76mm gun. The combination of that legendary KV-1 armour and some superior German firepower turns this into a very, very effective tank. Its one downside is that it's really, really slow. It can get up to a reasonable speed as long as it's going in a straight line, but if it hits rough ground or you try to turn it, it slows down to a crawl. I wasn't entirely sure whether this thing actually existed or not. Is our Gaijin just pulling a fast one? Is this a big what-if, a fantasy tank? And it turns out that it did actually exist. The Germans did capture KV-1s, and they did fit them with their own 75mm anti-tank guns. And it shouldn't really come as any surprise, because the Germans were doing this all the time. They captured loads of French tanks during the Battle of France in 1940. The only reason the German army weren't driving around with Matildas and Valentines is because the British destroyed them all before they pulled out on the beaches of Dunkirk. Germany, and well, everybody for that matter, were constantly using looted equipment. Those of you who've watched Band of Brothers, the legendary action on D-Day at Breckhall Manor, the artillery that was shelling the beaches during the action in which elements of the 101st Airborne took out the gun battery were French artillery pieces captured during 1940. In a similar fashion, after the great success of the opening stages of Operation Barbarossa in 1941 when the German army invaded Soviet Russia, despite the great early success, it was becoming increasingly apparent that tanks like the Panzer II were well past their sell-by date and couldn't really stand up against modern Soviet armour, particularly the T-34s that were appearing in greater number. And so the German army were looking around for ideas on what they were going to do with the large stocks of Panzer IIs that they had, and it was decided to turn them into assault guns by taking the turret off and mounting a large fixed anti-tank gun on them. The initial idea was to fit them with the PaK-40 75mm anti-tank gun, which was a great idea, and a lot of Marder IIs were made with this armament, but there just weren't enough of the PaK-40 75mm guns to go around. Luckily, they'd managed to capture hundreds of Soviet 76.2mm field guns, and so the majority of Marder IIs, which is what the new vehicle was known as, actually used Russian guns. So, bearing all this in mind, it really shouldn't have come as that much of a surprise to me that this machine not only existed, but it was used in combat. And fitted with that PaK-40 L43 75mm gun, it was entirely capable of dealing with Russian KV-1s. And it makes perfect sense to fit that 75mm gun to it if you're anticipating going up against Russian KV-1s. The guns at the time, fitted to Panzer IIIs and IVs, just weren't capable of beating the KV-1 unless you could swarm it, get around behind it and put shot after shot after shot into it. The majority of KV-1 casualties during the early stages of Operation Barbarossa were inflicted not by tanks but by towed anti-tank guns. Anti-tank guns like this PaK-40 L43 75mm gun. Of course, that's all well and good in real life, but here in War Thunder, the captured KV-1 isn't going up against the kind of machines that it would have been facing in real life, machines like early model T-34s and KV-1s. Instead, it's going up against machines with 85mm guns like the T-34-85 and the Su-85, the kind of guns that were designed to defeat tanks like the Tiger. Suddenly the armour on the KV-1 isn't looking all that good when you consider the kind of opponents it has to go up against in War Thunder Ground Forces realistic battles. Most of the other tanks on his team are either Panthers or Tigers, which gives you some idea of the kind of opposition that he's up against here. Most of the enemy team are either driving T-34-85s with that 85mm gun, or the T-34-57 with that very high velocity 57mm anti-tank gun. In fact, he's just spotted a T-34-57 now. Doesn't look like he knows he's here yet. Yep, got him. And that brings his kill tally for this sim battle to 5 enemy tanks destroyed. He seems to be doing alright. Of course, while War Thunder replays are infinitely better in patch 1.43 than they were previous to patch 1.43, they're still not 100% perfect. You'll have noticed that when he's aiming at tanks in the sniper view, like that the aiming reticle is usually slightly high and to the left of where he's actually aiming. Nothing I can do about that, I'm afraid. That's just a bug that Gaijin need to fix. And he's killed another one. Yeah, alright, it was only a GAZ anti-aircraft truck, but he's aiming right there at a T-34-85 and that shot hit. He manoeuvres, aims up for a second shot, but the first shot set him on fire and burns out his ammo rack. There's his 7th kill. There's not that many tanks left on the enemy team. Both teams control one flag, and Big Man Nipple's team don't seem to be in any rush to win by capping. They definitely have the numbers advantage, and it looks like they're going for the kills. Just shouldering the trees aside there. Like he doesn't even care. Oh, he spotted something. And there are some shots coming in, but it looks like somebody else took him out. Crossing open ground here, has to be real careful. His armor's good, but well, we're going to see how well it holds up against 85mm anti-tank fire. It's interesting that, you know, he's on a team with a whole bunch of Tigers and Panthers, and he's the one leading the way. But the tank is up to it. Now, one subject that keeps popping up whenever I put up a War Thunder Ground Forces realistic or simulator battle video is the subject of spotting and identifying enemy tank targets. A lot of the time you're seeing these guys shooting at tanks that you can't actually see yet and haven't appeared on the map. And paying attention to your map is important in War Thunder Ground Forces, but it's nowhere near as important as watching what's going on around you. Because a tank appearing on the minimap is a function of how good your crew's spotting skill is. If you've got your eyes open and you're watching for things like tracer and gun smoke, you can identify the presence of an enemy tank long before your crew does, and way before your radio operator can transmit or receive that information from other tanks who may have spotted and identified those enemy tanks. Big Man Nipples there, attracted by the gun smoke that was coming from a very well hidden enemy tank on top of the hill behind him, but which has now been taken out by another member of his team. Your map's important, sure, and if there is a threat on the map then you should absolutely definitely react to it, but using your eyes and spotting targets like that SU-152, who is very well hidden behind that ridge, is far more important. He's now been identified, a marker has been placed over him, but Big Man Nipples was putting shots at him long before that marker popped up. That SU-152 is in a tough spot. Because his gun's mounted so low in his chassis, in order for him to be able to point his gun at either Big Man Nipples in the captured KV-1, the Panther off to his right, or the Stug off to his left, he's got to expose himself to getting hit before he can point his gun at anybody. And Big Man Nipples and the Stug off to his left are doing a good job of keeping him buttoned down. You can see shots going in there from the Stug. And I'm really surprised that the Panther on the other side of that rock isn't taking advantage of this suppressive fire to move forward, because he's in the best position for it, get up over that ridge and put flanking fire in on the SU-152. And in fact, what happens is that the Stug, who's in the worst position from which to launch an attack, over on the left flank, where it's easier for the SU-152 to shoot without exposing more of himself, rather than the Panther, who's in the best position and seems to be botting. He's just putting shot after shot into the ground in front of him, rather than actually moving his tank and killing the SU-152. Big Man Nipples moves up in support of the Stug. The Panther again, just shooting the ground in front of him. I don't know what the hell he thinks he's doing. He's no use to the team alive. Searching the undergrowth for that SU-152. Using your eyes more important than using your map at this sort of stage. And there he is. He spotted him. The gun's aiming right at him. He takes the first shot and he takes him out. Now the only two things left on the enemy team are a PE-2 dive bomber and a T-3485 with the D5T gun. Once they kill that T-3485, it is game over. They don't have to kill every player on the enemy team because the enemy team don't have any of the capture points. And a dive bomber is capable of killing a tank, but it's not capable of capturing anything. So that T-3485, and the Panther's finally figured out how to move his tank forward. He's the one that they need to kill now, and somebody's calling in artillery there, right on top of the Stug. So I think we know that the T-3485 is close. That Stug's in trouble. And there's the T-3485 just on the other side of the hill. The Stug's firing at him. Big Man Nipples takes a shot and misses. The Stug fires and bounces off his frontal sloped armour. He's in serious trouble. He's in serious trouble. No, he isn't. Big Man Nipples puts one right through the front of his turret. And there's his 9th kill in War Thunder Ground Forces realistic battle. There is nothing that the PE-2 can do at this stage. Even if he somehow managed to drop a miraculous stick of bombs on all 3 of these tanks, he's still going to lose. This game is over. Big Man Nipples and the captured KV-1 in War Thunder Realistic Battle. Hope you enjoyed the video. Take care, and I'll catch you next time.